Thank you. What an amazing conference so far. So thanks for the organizer inviting me. It's the first time I'm coming to Romania. It's a very nice country so far. So today I'm going to talk about Vue CLI. So my name is Guillaume. I'm from the Vue.js core team, and I work on various projects like the Vue DevTools and Vue CLI. You can find me on Twitter, and everywhere else at accompanying. So let's get started. So Vue CLI is mostly all about creating Vue projects. So let's go back in history and take a look at what was happening previously in Vue CLI land. So yeah, like cats. The previous way of using Vue CLI was this Vue init command. So for Vue CLI version 1 and 2. It was great, but it has a few problems, like it can use a lot of different templates for your projects, but the problem is all of those templates are incompatible with each other. So for example, you can have the default template in JavaScript, and then you have another template with TypeScript, and then another template with PWS support, but you can mix them together. Also, it was mostly for scaffolding, so basically generating a bunch of files that makes your project, and then basically it's no longer there to help you. It also automatically, the only feature you had was to eject you, because basically you create a new project, generates file, and well, as I said, no longer there. Also, upgrading was difficult. So, for example, if we made some changes to our Webpack template, well, basically you had to read the commits and try to manually make those changes back to your project. So, very difficult. Also, the forked template had a hard time upgrading as well. So, for example, the amazing TypeScript team from Microsoft had forked our offshore template to make the TypeScript one, and when we made some changes, they always had a lot of trouble updating. So basically, quite some a lot of issues. So with maybe we can fix all of those. So that's why we started working on the new version of Vue CLI. Which I think is amazing. So Vue CLI 3 was released last year in the summer, and it was a lot of effort to get there, but I think it was it. So you can install it now. So if you previously used the Vue CLI version 2 or 1, you should remove it from your computer, because we renamed the package to use the npm organization scope, so @vue /CLI. And to use it, you can use the Vue create command with the name of your app, and then it will ask you a bunch of questions, and then create your project, and then you can go to the project, run several commands like serve to have a Webpack development server running, or build your files for production. So it's quite easy to use. And this is one of the most interesting part of this. It's compared to Vue init, it's going to behave very, very differently. And it also has a lot of new things, like Webpack 4, Bubble, PWS support, purposes, TypeScript, a lot of built-in features, really. So that's great. And how did we manage to do that compared to the old Vue CLI? So previously we had a template system, which were incompatible with each other, as I said. And so we ditched it and replaced it with a plugin system, which is totally different. But it's great because it allows us to asks you what feature you want when you create a project. So, for example, you can select if you want TypeScript and if you want a testing solution, or if you want Bubble. You can even like add new feature after creating the project. So if you forgot to add unit testing or end-to-end testing solutions to your project, you can like add them later. You're like not forced to recreate a project from scratch. Also, we made it makes upgrade easier because we can just like make some changes inside the plugins, and plugins are basically NPM packages, so you just have to upgrade them and you're good to go. So that's pretty amazing, right? Yeah, perfect. But that's not the only thing we have in store for Vue CLI 3. So it's no longer ejecting you from the start, and instead it's going to live there in your project and help you build your app in its entire life cycle. So this is what we call the runtime, and it's a Vue CLI service like command you can run in your scripts on with npx, and it takes a command name and you can do a lot of things. Basically, what it does is it's gonna look for this package which is installed in any Vue CLI 3 project, and this package contains basically all the basic stuff to have your app running or built for production. So basically Webpack and some of the stuff. And it's gonna also look for the other plugins which are installed in your project, like for example, TypeScript or PWA or ESLint. And then gonna configure everything, and like do some work for you. So it can both modify Webpack configuration, for example. So if you have ESLint plugin in your project, then you're gonna like add the ESLint loader for you, and then you get the errors from ESLint in your like application after Webpack compiles it. You can also register new commands. So the ESLint plugin again can register a lint command for you, so you can run Vue CLI service lint, and then it will like fix your files. So basically now, Vue CLI is no longer just about creating a project, but you can also you can also use it for developing the app, testing the app, producing the build for your production servers, and deploy your apps or your files on S3, for example, and many more. So now Vue CLI is like the complete build tool for the whole like application lifecycle. And if by any chance that's not enough for you, so if you like all the built-in features, you're missing something. Thankfully, we have a public API that allows the Vue community to create plugins as well. And I'm very happy because this number of plugins is always increasing, so it's amazing. We are almost 500 plugins you can choose from. And you can create your own because, well, it's a public API. And then you can share it with the world. And that's not all I have to say about Vue CLI. And this is the part I worked most on. It's the Vue CLI user interface. What? You can call it with this command. So if you like install Vue CLI, you can run Vue UI in your terminal. And this is quite strange because it's supposed to be a command line interface. But just so before like going into why, just to let you know a little bit what's going to happen if you run this command. So first, I'm gonna spin up a little node server with a borrowed server, and then open a page in your browser, which is basically a Vue app, and then both will communicate with each other. So that means you don't have to download gigabytes of Electron libraries dependencies. So it's basically just a little web app on your computer locally. But yeah, as I said, Vue CLI is like a CLI, so CLI stands for command line interface, command line, so in the terminal. So why do we got a user interface in there? And the reasons are since like Vue CLI 3 is more complex because it has like more choices you can make. It has like way more commands than previously because it's no longer just create a project, and also like all those building features creates a lot of options to show from. As like the Vue framework, we say we are a progressive framework because we try to always improve development experience and make the whole framework and ecosystem easier to use and get started with. So I like this phrase, it's a quote. So let's emphasize everything. I like this in the slide. It was from Yves from Cat Sandbox, and basically the goal here is like to turn all of those like CLI interfaces into graphical user interfaces. So the benefits are you get more context. So for example here, you can quickly see that when creating a project, you have a few steps, like details, presets, features, and configuration. And also we can like present more information about what's going on, in which folder you're gonna create your project, like what are all the options available. We can also like provide more detailed explanations because we are not limited to small text-only interface in the terminal. So for example, here I can like describe what a preset is without you having to go to the documentation. And we can also improve discoverability. So for example, if you want to add a new plugin to your project, there's an entire session interface for that, so you don't have to go to npm and try to find which plugins are available. We can also improve the interaction experience with it. So I think this is the best example. So basically, instead of asking you which color you want, we can directly display a real color picker. So I think that's great, and I think will be quite hard to do in the terminal. And also, we can very easily localize everything. So that's quite important, for example, in Japan. So that's the Japanese version. And much more, like, you can do much more things than that. So let's give it a look, shall we? So let's hope everything works. So I have it already running. So the first thing you want to do to try it is run the Vue UI command. And then you see this web page opening up in your browser. And it's basically Vue CLI but turned into a graphical user interface. So the first thing you notice is this Vue project manager. So it allows you to list all your projects and then switch between them easily. But for now, we don't have any. I can import a project. So for example, Vue CLI UI itself. And then you get like a full user interface. I'm gonna get back to this in a moment. So as you can see, we have our project listed here. You can also create new projects. So here you got a little like folder interface, so you can like browse your file system. I'm gonna like select this folder, and then you get into the project create wizard. Let me maybe I can zoom a little bit more. Yeah. So you can start by choosing them, and the nice thing is, since we are like in user interface, we can like add little like things like saying, oh, this folder already exists, so maybe you want to change the name or overwrite. So let's say I want I will like name it like heroes. Okay. Then we can see there are a bunch of options. You can like select different kind of package managers, and well, you can by default Vue CLI will create a Git repository, but you can disable that. And then when you're finished like with the basic details of your project, you go to this second step, which is choosing a preset. And a preset is basically a selection of features you want for your project to have. So by default, you have this preset with only Babel and ESLint. You can also save presets, so those two are like my own presets. And the most interesting thing is you can select manually, and then like manually select the features you want for your new project. So for example, we could say want some CSS preprocessing, for example, and some unit testing, why not? I'm gonna use configuration files as well. And then on the next screen, you can configure the features you just selected, so if they have any. So since I selected CSS preprocessors, I can like choose which language I want to use in my project. So for example, stylus. And if you selected ESLint, for example, you can select which ESLint configuration you want. For example, standard. And you can also select a unit testing solution. So built-in, we have Mocha or Jest. I'm gonna go with Jest. And when you're done, you can click on Create Project and then save the selection you just made into a new preset, so that next time you can use it directly instead of going through this whole process again. I'm gonna skip this, and then it's gonna create a project. So I'm in development mode, so that's why it's very fast. But normally we'll like install things from npm, but I like I'm not sure it's a good idea to do this in a live demo. Well, it's okay. So here you go in your like the first view you see in a project is the project dashboard, and this is basically a grid of widgets. So if you're familiar with Android, for example, you have this like desktop like feature on Android when you can like put widgets, and that's basically what's going on here. So I can like click on this and go to customize mode, and then I can move widgets around. I can add new add new widgets. Some of them can be resized. You can move them around like this. And when you're done, you can have this customized like dashboard experience in your project. And by default, this widget will like show you the Vue.js news. You can configure some widgets. So for example, if you have an RSS link, you can use it there. This one is gonna like run some tasks, so you can just select the task. We go to task a little bit later. The second page is the plugins. So here you can see all the Vue CLI plugins installed in your project. So as I selected unit testing with Jest, where I created the project, you can see it's installed here. And the nice thing is you can add new plugins. So if you go there, you get a nice search experience with all the Vue CLI free plugins available on NPM. So for example, you can like search for GraphQL and have a few options there. I'm gonna choose, for example, PWA support. And then you install the plugin. And then it can have some configuration, but this one doesn't. And finish. And then it's gonna like install the plugin into the project. So this view like isn't working because I'm in a development mode, but I can like show you what it looks like. This is another instance I'm using to develop Vue CLI UI. To show you this, I'm gonna need the network, but let's hope it like works. So for example, if I attach it to this demo, by the Wi-Fi god. So this one is actually asking a few questions. But basically what is going to happen when you add a plugin is that it can have what we call a generator, so it can like add new files and modify existing files. So here we have this GitHub-like view of what just happened in your project. So for example, the plugin added those new files here, so a bunch of TypeScript files, and it also happened to update existing files, like the package.json file. So you can directly see that it added a few things like a new script and new dependencies. And then you can commit all of this with a GitHub commit, give it a message, and then save. So going back to the demo, I'm going to continue. And now we have this new PWA plugin I was adding earlier. So that's like very easy to add plugins. You can also update them from the user interface. So if you have updates, it will like, show up. The next page is dependencies. So that's everything which is not a Vue CLI plugin installed in your project. So you can see that we are using a few of them, like Vue, for example. You can update them and install them, or install new dependencies. You can select between a main dependency or development dependency, and then, for example, if you need large merge, you can search for it, select it, and then install it. The next one is configuration. So this is very interesting because since we are in a graphical user interface, we can turn some configuration files into configuration screens. So I think it's a better user experience than having just like a cryptic configuration file you don't really know about. Even sometimes the configuration file is like empty, and you need to find out on the internet what you can put in it. So here we got a few different configuration screens. So the first one is about Vue CLI itself, and you can configure a bunch of things. And as you can see, we can like explain which option does what, and you can even like click on more info, and you go directly to the documentation. And this one is very interesting as well because we are actually dynamically getting all the available rules in the Vue ESLint plugin, and we can show them to you here. So you can directly see which rule you can enable or disable in your project and what they do. And since I just added the PWA plugin as well, well, I got a PWA screen where I can like change the name of the app or the different colors associated with the splash screen, for example. So let's open a new project here. So it looks like a very like standard JavaScript project with a package.json file and a few different like source files, but there is no Webpack configuration to be found here. So that's because Vue CLI is doing all the hard work for you. So let's say I want to change the name of the application here, and then change also the main theme to be like JSHeroes blue, maybe something like that. And then I'm gonna click save. And the nice thing is, Vue CLI UI just like applied what the changes I just made to the whole project. So it just created this new configuration file for you. So it wasn't there before. You didn't have to know about it, but now it's there, and you can see what I just entered is also like inputted there. And the nice thing is, it also just updated the web manifest of the app. So it added the right color I just changed. And the nice thing is you don't need to know about like updating the manifest and the Vue configuration file. So that's nice. For example, if I go back to Vue CLI, I can like enable, for example, the runtime compiler view. and save. And you have a handy little button here to open directly the configurations files impacted by this configuration screen, and we can see it just added this here. And the last screen is tasks, which is basically all the scripts you have in your project. So the first one is like the most useful one in development, because it's gonna launch Webpack in development mode. So let's run it. And as you can see, we can like enhance the tasks with oh, it's not working. Sorry. With like a specific user interface here. Oh, demo. I'm gonna demo that on the stable version. So here what's gonna happen is that when Webpack finishes building your project, it can directly show you a bunch of stats, like speed estimations and what is the biggest dependency in your project, and it can also display an analyzer graph, so you can like browse what's inside your project and like which is taking some space in your bundles, and you can directly open the app, and here it is, or like view on TypeScript app. Is it gonna work? You can also build a project. No, the one will not work. Sorry about that. So you can also build for production here. And the nice thing is you can also go to like the parameters of the task and enable, for example, modern mode, which is gonna build two versions of your app. And one is gonna be optimized for modern browsers. So that's why we have two different progress bars here. So the green one is the legacy bundle, which is gonna support all browsers like IE, and the blue one is the modern mode bundle. So you can switch between them, and you see, for example, that the core.js polyfills are not there anymore. So that's nice. You can also run other tasks, and if there is no specific UI for it, you just see the terminal output directly here. I think that's pretty much it for the demo. Well, you can play with it around. There are a lot of other things it can do, but I'm running out of them. So for the demo, so that's pretty much it. So what was going on? A little bit of explanations of when I created the project. Basically, Vue like installed the plugins corresponding to the features selected during creating the project, and then like it ran what we call generators to create new files or edit existing files, as we saw in the Git-like diff view. And then generators can, like, for example, add new dependencies to your project, so we're gonna install them for you. And then we can do some like final processing, like linting the files or whatnot. That's not all you can do. So it also have a public API, so you can extend the user interface in your Vue CLI plugin. So that's like a little explanation graph, but basically it says you can do stuff. So for example, you can add like prompts in your plugins, but you can add more informations for the UI. So for example, you can add a link to a documentation page, or you can group the prompts together in the user interface, which is going to look like this. So this is from the Apollo GraphQL plugin. So it's like enhanced for the user interface. You can also, like we saw, add new configuration screens, which is going to look like this, for example. So this screen is configuring an Apollo server. You can also load custom components. So this is what we call client add-on here. And you can load load new components or Vue router routes. And then you can communicate with your plugin, which is on the Node.js server. We started with the Vue UI command. And then you can do nice things like adding custom components. And so a bunch of example code. You can see that you will be able to browse those slides later. And for example, with those, you can augment, like enhance the tasks. So like we saw, we have a Webpack dashboard. But for example, a plugin can add new components like this GraphQL playground directly in the user interface. So that's, again, from the Apollo GraphQL plugin. You can also add new widgets to the dashboard. So, for example, you can add, let's say, a monitoring widget, monitoring widgets to the dashboard from Apollo engine, for example. But yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. A little bit of information about what's going what's going to come to Vue CLI 3 and the UI in the future. So we are currently working on PNPM support. So currently we support NPM and Yarn, and we're gonna very soon support BNPM as well. We also gonna improve the upgrade experience for Vue CLI plugins, improve the hero overlays. Currently it's like the standard Webpack hero overlay, but we have plans like being able to click on the errors and open the right file directly. And for the UI, working on the settings page, more keyboard interactions, and also the ability to install global plugins. So for example, you could imagine someone creating a Git plugin which integrates with the UI and like displaying the Git graph on commit user interface. So that's coming soon. So you can find out more by going to our roadmaps for Vue CLI at this URL. And that's it. You can like check out more about Vue CLI. This is the official documentation. And I have a Patreon page, so if you like the open source work I do for the Vue community and GraphQL community, you can check it out. I have 4 amazing sponsors, so the Vue School and Vue Mastery are great learning resources for Vue. And also Vuetify, which is a material design component library, and Frontend Love, which is the organizers of Vue Amsterdam. So big shout out to them for supporting me. Thank you.